Hello and welcome to another purveyor of Lightroom quick tip. Today we've got a challenge actually to try to solve a problem. A lot of you wrote in that you had watched my video a couple weeks back about making the Orton effect using Photoshop. And a lot of you requested, is it possible to do something similar in Lightroom? And so I had to think about it for a little bit, and I'm going, well, there's just some functionalities that, Lightroom doesn't have. And I says, maybe we can get something close. Okay. I know we can't produce it exactly, but I think we can get something close. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay. And in case some of you are new and are not familiar with the Orton effect, I'll give you a brief history on it. Okay. The Orton effect was invented by Michael Orton in the early 80s. He was a landscape photographer, and he shot slides and film and back in the day. And he was just not happy with the outcome. He would, develop his photos, and he just wasn't happy. It didn't have that artistic feel to him. He wanted his photos to have a dreamlike effect, a glow, a painterly feel. Okay, an ethereal glow, as it were. And so he came up with the idea of the Orton effect. Now, the Orton effect is actually a very simple technique. It's actually taking a normal exposure and then taking a second exposure that is blurred, slightly out of focus, and then overexposing. Okay, combine that together, and you got the Orton effect. And what it does is it creates a dreamy, slightly out of focus, glowing effect on a photo. And again, you do it lightly, you don't do it heavy-handedly, but basically that's what the Orton effect is. So I'm going to use the exact same image that I used a week or so back when I did the Photoshop one, and let's see if we can do, okay, make sure it's all reset to nothing. All right, and it is. So this one is straight out of the camera now. And now what I need to do is figure out how to reproduce the steps to make the Orton. And we're going to do some little unusual steps because Lightroom doesn't support layers, so we can't build on effects. So, and I don't want to overwrite. If you just got done editing this photo and you have all your photo settings and everything, I'm not going to be able to I'll mess up your document. So we need to do it without messing up your document. All right. So we're going to create what is called a off-screen layer. All right. And we're going to do that by using the graduated filter. So we're going to click the graduated filter. Okay. And we're going to come off the picture. This is very important. Do not put your cursor on the actual picture. Put it on the gray area outside it. Hold the shift key down and then drag to the right and release. Okay. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a layer mask over the entire image. I'll go ahead and turn that on so you can see what I'm doing. If I click on the show to last, you see we have a total mask covering the entire image. Okay. So that we're essentially building a layer. Okay. It's a way of cheating out of Lightroom. All right. So now that I have this extra layer, all right, I need to turn around and make adjustments to emulate the Orton effect. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to increase the exposure slightly. Don't want to be too heavy-handed on it. I'm going to increase the contrast. And I'm going to increase the highlights. Okay, see how we're starting to get that creamy ethereal? And now the last thing we need to do is we need to introduce a blur, right? Because we've increased the exposure, we've increased the contrast, but we need to bring in that blur. And the only thing we have in Lightroom to do blur actually is the clarity. Clarity, if I take it to the right, it makes it crunchy. So it makes everything incredibly sharp. But if I bring it to the left, it brings in that blur effect that we want. Okay, and that's the important part. So now that we have the blur in, the last thing I need to do is I need to put it in a range mask, because right now it's affecting everything in the image. And you'll notice how our shadows are blocking up into nothingness. So I want to come in and I want to put a luminance range on it. I'm going to turn on the mask so I can see what's happening. Right now, as you can see, this effect is covering the entire image. I want to restrict it, and I don't want it to affect the shadows. So I'm going to pull in until I'm happy with it not bringing in the shadows. And right there, that looks pretty good. So anything in black is not going to be affected by this. So let's see what we got. We'll turn off the mask and let's see. Okay, so now we have the before. Okay, now pay attention to the background and the detail, okay? And you'll see, and the after. That brings in the effect, okay? The dreaminess effect of the Orton thing. Now, we don't have the flexibility to go beyond this in Lightroom, okay? So all we can do is just increase our settings here if we want to try to bump things up. If you want to, well, let me try to boost up the color a little bit. Can I bring the highlights more? That's all you can do, because we can't do clarity anymore. It's where you're at the limit. All right. So that's about the most we can get out of Lightroom, but it's actually not a bad effect. Okay. If you look at it before and the after, we've done pretty well. So it's a close proximity. Now, if I were doing this, okay, I would not go as high as this on the highlights, and I would definitely not go as high on the exposure. I would be going something like this. Okay, so there's the before and there's the after. Okay, it's a subtle effect, but it'll add a little artsy to your photos. And plus, you don't have to go into Photoshop. Okay, so the trick again is knowing how to make this graduated filter act like a layer so that we can build upon the photo itself. Okay, well, hopefully that helps you. Hopefully you'll try it, see if you like it, and until next week, you guys take care.